Tippy tap tap tap, tippy tap, tippy tip tip, tippy 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 tap 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 tap, tippity tippity tap tap tap, tippity tap tap tap. Oh, hello, tippity tap tap tap. Welcome to the insanity of the modern world. As you may or may not know, I'm known as Eli the Computer Guy. And yeah, I don't know. What am I supposed to say anymore? What is an Eli the Computer Guy supposed to say anymore? So, yeah, my project is something called SiliconDojo.com, what I'm working on right now. Basically, the idea being, what if high quality technology education was simply as accessible as water? Right? That's my idea. Like, right? Education empowers people so that they can pay more taxes. Wouldn't you think a modern society would devote a tremendous amount of resources to an endeavor like that, if for no other reason than that society can mine a hell of a lot more taxes out of the people that they've empowered? Again, you get more taxes out of somebody making $60,000 a year than you do out of somebody making $20,000 a year. And as any employer knows, the difference between a $60,000 a year employee and a $20,000 a year employee isn't actually a whole hell of a lot. It's not actually a whole hell of a lot. But anyways, what do I know? I'm just a geek sitting in my basement, tip-a-tap typing away. So anyways, we have self-study classes on SiliconDojo.com. We have a lot of different things. Well, we're going to have our first guest. Is that what we call them? We're doing a fireside chat. So next Wednesday, Martin Lehner, owner of Tangerine Technologies up in the Yukon, Canadian Yukon. We're going to be sitting down with Zoom and talking with him. I'm going to ask him questions. Plus you, well, I don't know about you, my students will be able to ask him questions, right? If you're like Eli, you don't know everything. I agree. That's why when I don't know the answer, I go talk to somebody who's an expert in the area. So anyways, we're gonna bring Martin Lehner in. So he owns his own company. He does cybersecurity. He's in Canada. We're gonna talk about all kinds of different things there. And then it's gonna be on Zoom. So students will be able to basically raise their hands during the conversation and be able to ask their specific questions. Anyways, and that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to do with Silicon Dojo. But one of the things we do with Silicon Dojo is we do one-on-one conversations every Monday, 1 through 5. Sit down for 30 minutes with each person and talk about things. Basically, the problems that they're having in career, moving their business forward, what tech stacks to use, that type of thing. And so we do that. And so I get a lot of questions there. And so I do these particular videos basically to answer the same types of questions that I get either during those meetings or just in general. Just in general. Anyway, so how's this video doing today? So we got a little bit of new. We got a little bit of old for this particular video. So we have the new microphone system. We're using the Rode Wireless Pro microphone system. So I got that little lapel thing going on, so it doesn't like pull down my entire shirt. Don't do any nip slips on the Eli the Computer Guy show. Oh no, don't want to get canceled for a nip slip here on Eli the Computer Guy. So we're using the lapel mic component today. We are using the ring light. We got the Lume Cube Pro ring light. We're using that. But yesterday, I was using the iPhone. I was using the iPhone 14 Pro to record the video. Then I realized I just did not like that video quality. Good for many things, but it is what it is. And so I pulled out the old. I have the Sony AX700 camcorder. I think the image quality is a hell of a lot better. So I shoved that thing in the middle of the Lume Cube. So I don't know, how do I look? How do I look? Am I pretty? Tell me I'm pretty. Tell me I'm pretty. Anyways, enough of the procrastination. Enough of the procrastination, talking about other things. we gotta get to the real world today. We got to get to the real world and the questions that I've actually been asked. And yeah, I don't know. What is the answer? I don't know. Well, Eli, you said if you don't know, you go talk to the experts. Yeah, I don't know who the experts on this would be either. I think we're all just kind of confused. I just feel like we are all just very confused at this point. And so I want to talk about why Trump's absolutely chaotic trade policies and a whole bunch of other policies that he currently has, why this chaos, the chaos specifically, is an issue for you as a technology professional. So we've talked about the tariffs, and then he changed the tariffs, because that's what happens. Right? We talked about the tariffs before, and I was discussing, why tariffs matter. Today, I want to talk about why the abject chaos that we're currently dealing with matters on its own. So beyond the actual immigration policy, beyond the tariff policy, beyond the laying off tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of government employees, beyond all these different individual policies, why is chaos unto itself a major issue? And more specifically, why is it going to be a major issue for you? Because I think this is going to be a big problem going forward with what we're seeing. Again, I literally did a video yesterday talking about the tariffs, right? So there's going to be 100% tariffs against China. There's going to be like 20% or some odd tariffs against Europe. I don't know, some pissant little country in the middle of Africa is getting 50% tariffs. Why? Who knows? They just are. If you didn't want to have 50% tariffs, you shouldn't have put your country in the middle of Africa. I guess that makes as much sense as anything else as far as these arguments are concerned. But anyways, I did the whole video yesterday, and I was talking about the tariff concerns here. And again, as an American, I would argue the most American thing you could probably do right now is build a data center in Costa Rica. Be like the Quakers, the American Quakers, and go to Costa Rica, right? Because again, there's just so many issues right now, like I said, with the tariff policy and it jacking up the costs of so many goods, some of the products that we buy. Again, these Rode microphone, if this is coming from China, if it costs 100% more, so I bought these for $300. $300 is a bit expensive, but hey, if it gets you folks to stop crying about my audio quality, I'll spend $300 to keep my viewers from crying. I don't know, $600? $600? At that point, suck it up, buttercup. You're not going to spend $600 on you, right? But that's one of the things I was talking about. Is like, again, like this, this costs $600 instead of $300. What happens when a Mac goes from being $3,000 to $6,000? And then what are all the ramifications about that? So we did the video yesterday discussing that. And then literally uploaded the video. And one of the first comments I got on the video was, hey, did you see that Trump rescinded almost all the tariffs? So that's right. Tariffs go into effect, and then tariffs go away, or most of the tariffs go away. We now have 125% tariffs against China. Plus, we've got like 10% tariffs. So 10% tariffs across the board for everybody, and now 125. So not 100% tariffs against China, 125% tariffs against China, which I do wonder if it actually goes higher, because again, there's this whole Venezuelan thing and some other issues going on. But anyways, literally, I do a video, and by the time I can upload the video, policy has already changed. Now, isn't that a good thing, right? A lot of people are excited. Look, the stock market. Oh God, the stock market went up the most in 20 years or something ridiculous, and so people are excited. It's like, wow, so the stock market went up the most in 20 years after it went down the most in forever. But anyways, people are excited now because the tariffs apparently are on a 90-day reprieve. And again, the important thing to understand with how Trump is doing things is he's not saying this is off the board. He's not saying we came up with a trade treaty, that we came up with a free trade agreement, and we are now abiding by that free trade agreement. No, he's just saying those particular tariffs are delayed, postponed, whatever, for 90 days. And so the issue that we get into with this chaotic mess of this particular administration is the problem is how, as business people, and how, as individuals, do we make decisions about the products and services that we're going to buy? Right, I think about this. So I ran into a politician. So back when I was in high school, I was in DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of America. I competed in entrepreneurship back before it was cool. When entrepreneurs played D&D and nobody liked any of us. Anyways, I still remember that. I was playing D&D one time, and this incredibly cute girl came into my buddy's basement and wanted to play D&D. We were all like, what? What's going on here? I don't understand. Anyways, that was the 90s. So I used to compete in entrepreneurship, and so when you do that kind of thing, they try to bring in role models, you know, for you to aspire to. And they brought in a politician. I think they brought in a senator to give us a little spiel. And then afterwards, you know, we could go up and talk to the senator. So me being me, it's like, ooh, I want to poke that thing. What's gonna come out of a senator if I poke it hard enough? Anyways, so I go up to the senator and I start talking to the senator. That's what I do. And at one point we start talking about George Bush Sr. We didn't think about him being senior at that time because nobody gave a damn about George Bush Jr. We'll talk about George Bush Sr. And again, especially in entrepreneurship and business. I was asking why the president was so stupid, right? Because back with George Bush, again, 35 years ago or whatever, when he lost the election against Bill Clinton, basically he kept trying to say that the economy was good. The economy is good, and obviously it was not good. And back then, when the economy was not good, we were allowed to say it was not good. Remember those days? We could be honest. Hey, I don't think the economy is doing very well. And everybody be like, you know what, I think you're right. Remember those days? I remember those days. Anyways, the economy was not doing very well. And George Bush Sr. came out and was like, the economy's fine. And we all called him a goddamn idiot. Because he was. What the hell are you talking about? We're in a recession. Everybody knows we're in a recession. Our president is stupid. Anyway, so I started talking to the senator about it. And I was like, why is the president so stupid? If we all know that the economy is going to hell, right? We're in recession. How does he come out and say that the economy isn't in recession? And he said, well, here's a problem, Eli. Here's a problem. He's like, if you know the economy is in recession, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to be a good boy and I'm going to save money. And he's like, yeah, you're going to be a good boy and you're going to save money. And when you save money, you're going to destroy the country. Are you proud, boy? Are you proud for destroying the country? Like, what? Your piggy bank destroyed America. Well, think about it, right? You know, if you're going into a recession, if you're going into a depression, you start putting your money in the piggy bank because, hey, you don't need that Rode wireless thing today. You know, you might need to eat tomorrow. But here's the thing. When I buy this Rode wireless thing, you know, an Amazon delivery driver gets paid money. An Amazon warehouse worker gets paid money. Amazon gets paid a hell of a lot of money. Rode gets paid money. Rode's warehouse people get paid money. The people that sell the components to Rode, they get paid money. So here's the thing. If I spend $300 on this Rode wireless setup, a whole bunch of people get a couple of dollars out of that transaction. And then they get a couple of dollars, and so what do? They go pay the rent, they go pay the mortgage, they buy their own equivalent, right? They go buy a Shure microphone, right? Anyways, and that keeps the economy going. Here's the thing, when you shove your money into the piggy bank, Nobody gets a cut of that money. That money just rots in the piggy bank. The important thing to understand is money is like water. The faster and freer it flows, the healthier it is. The less it flows, the more stagnant and rank it becomes. And so basically what he was saying with George Bush Sr. is that by him coming out and trying to state that we weren't actually in a recession, the idea was to keep people from thinking that we were in a recession so that they still keep going to McDonald's and everything else. And the idea being is if he could convince us we weren't in a recession, then we might not go into a recession. It's a psychology game that the politicians have to play. Again, as the old white man once told me, Eli, I'm not telling you it's a good system. I am telling you it's a system we got. So anyways, right. Well, the issue that we get into nowadays, again, the abject chaos that Trump is causing, is the whole question is, what do you do? What do you do? Is the economy going up? Or is the economy going down? Or is the economy in the middle? Or is Trump actually insane? Is he crazy as a fox, or is he just crazy? Put in my $5 at this point, he might just be crazy, right? The issue becomes, is what do you do? And think about the ripples that puts into the economy, right? So if you think massive tariffs are coming down the pike, what are you going to do? You're going to front load purchases. So again, I bought this, right? We get this microphone. Literally, you have Trump to thank for better audio for Eli, the computer guy. Weird how macro forces affect things. But I also bought this probably before I really wanted to buy this, with some different things going on. It's $300, who the hell cares? I went to Run Club last night. We have pub runs here in Nashville. I was talking to a person at Pub Run about the insanity going on, tariffs and all that. And he literally said he bought a new car. He bought a new car a month or two ago. Because he said, well, I know in the next few years, I'm going to need to buy a new car. If he's putting 25%, tariffs onto everything coming in, he doesn't necessarily want to buy American. He decided to front load and buy the car now. Right? Well, one of the things you have to think about is that's good, Eli. That's good. Eli, Trump is doing so good for the economy. You're buying a microphone, he's buying a car. Boom! But it's called front loading. You're not changing the absolute number of transactions that will occur. You're simply time shifting. You're moving in time when those transactions occur. So you have people that basically instead of 5 people buying a car this month and 5 people buying a car this month and 5 people buying a car, blah, 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 you get all of those people, get 100 people time shifted so that they buy everything in February. The issue is that makes February look good. That makes the economy look awesome. Look at all these cars being sold, right? Tesla in Canada, they sold like 1,000 cars in one store in 2 days, right? That was definitely legal, right? Anyways, right? It front loads it. But the problem then becomes is what happens after that. If you sell a year's worth of cars in a couple of months, what then happens with the rest of the year? And what you need to be thinking about as an employee, right? You're there for those couple of months and everything's going insane and the boss is making more money than ever. You're like, yeah, I'm going to get a Christmas bonus this year. But then all the tariffs go into effect, the whole 9 yards, or they do or don't. Anyways, the front loading's over. And then you have a whole bunch of people that already have cars, so they're not buying cars. And so the next month, you might only sell a couple of cars. And the next month, you might only sell 1 or 2 cars. The next month, you're not selling very many cars. And all of a sudden, you're now in September, and it's been 5 or 6 months since you sold any number of cars. And remember, your salary isn't based off of the cars that were sold in February. Your salary is based off the cars that are sold in September. And now all of a sudden, you're getting laid off. because you're not selling any more cars, right? One of the big issues to be thinking about as an employee, again, in the American system, if you're not in the United States, God bless you, I'm not talking to you. Anyways, if you're in the American system, right, employment is not a social service. Again, the Gen Zers are going to have a heart attack when they realize the country that they were born into. Sorry, I don't know what country you thought you were born into. Sounds like a great place. It's not here, though. It's not here. Anyways, right? You know, jobs are not some kind of social service here. Jobs are based off of the demand, you know, to provide services for businesses. Businesses have customers and clients. In order to provide services for those customers and clients, you need employees. So essentially, you know, you are the vendor to your employer to provide the products and service. So when you have the chaos that's going on, right, you get things like things are time shifted, things are moved up. But then the next question that comes for a lot of people is with the chaos, it's like, okay, well, maybe I was going to time shift, but now all of a sudden things have changed, so maybe I'll wait. So then you have other people that decide to wait a bit, right? You know, oh, I don't really understand what's going on, right? I thought everything was going to be bad, now everything's pretty good. Let me wait a while. So you time shifted these customers, you front loaded them, and then you time shifted these customers and you backloaded them, and now you gotta have this morass in the middle of again, like what are customers going to be comfortable purchasing, you know, from you as a business? Do they feel comfortable in this particular environment buying your product or service? And one of the issues, again, for the United States is we stopped focusing on necessities a long time ago. Again, and that's the thing, is like when you're selling food and people are hungry, you can put damn near whatever price you want on that food and you'll still be able to sell food. Here's the issue though, is when we're in a society, when we're focused on, you know, iPads and iPhones and video games and televisions and fast food, right? If I'm uncomfortable about the current economic environment, I don't have to buy fast food. If I'm uncomfortable about the current economic environment, I don't have to buy an iPhone or an iPad or the next video game or something else. I can just sit and wait. So you front load people and you back load people, and the rest of these people are getting confused and they're not really sure what to do, and they start backing off because they're nervous about the economy. Because again, anybody that was, you know, 30 years old back in 2008, if you remember the Great Recession, you remember the Great Recession. Great Recession sucked. Great Recession sucked. Again, when I talk about the dot-com bust, right, I'll talk about it as a technology professional. But a lot of folks lost money in the stock market. But it was one of those weird, like the dot-com bust was like massively significant and also not massively significant at the exact same time. Like if you were at the wrong place at the wrong time, you just got bulldozed. And as a society, it did cause you issues. But, you know, there are a lot of people that just didn't quite realize that the dot-com bust happened. It was like, oh, huh. Surprise. The stupid bubble in companies that people weren't buying crap from blew up. But the thing is, like with the Great Recession, that just hammered everybody. That just across the board. Carpet bombed our economy, right? And so again, for a lot of us, if we remember the carpet bombing of the economy, that makes us really nervous. And again, to go from 100,000 six-figure salaries to nothing. I mean, think about this. Think about going from six-figure salaries to literally not being able to pay the mortgage, simply because you literally just cannot get a job. It's not because you're lazy, not because you're not motivated, not because you're not disciplined. You'd be more than happy to sell your soul to the company man. But the company man is just a fucking chock-a-block of souls. Just got so many souls. Doesn't need another soul today. Sorry, come back in a couple of years. Maybe we'll want your soul then, right? And so if you're used to that, Think about how much nerves that puts in, again, for the consumers, and the normal consumers that were around, and also like the business people and all that. And then think about this from the business person's standpoint, right? Again, when you create a business, it's an organization that has a lot of moving parts. You have a lot of different balls in the air. And again, when you think about the balls, when you're thinking about the balls, you're thinking about AWS versus Azure, local versus cloud infrastructure, server rooms, that type of thing, right? Because that's what you're focused on. But as I talk about here, the executives have to worry about the server rooms, and they also have to worry about the toilet paper and the facilities. Right? Facilities. Again, they have to figure out, make sure coffee gets brought in. And what coffee? Again, there's no Saturday, and I've been there. There's no Saturday. Then when the Starbucks gets replaced by that Lion crap. And you're like, well, what happened to the Starbucks coffee? Yeah, well, we need to conserve our financial resources. Like what? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. As long as we don't get Folgers. Right? You got these businesses. They figure a lot of stuff out, right? The technology side, the salesperson side, the marketing side, the warehouse side, the facilities side, all of that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that you put on the table. Again, when I had my business, I don't know, what was it? It was $1,000 a day, turnkey. You talk about turnkey. Literally, you turn the key, you burned $1,000. Right? And I wasn't big. I wasn't significant. Might have been more than that. It's been a while. Anyways, right? I had one of my clients, their electricity bill per month was like $30,000. Electricity. That's not rent, mortgage, rest of that horse crap. Electricity bill was 30 grand a month. So you have these businesses, and again, if you're a business owner, you're an executive, right? And you're dealing with real money. You're dealing with a lot of employees. Again, you think a $100,000 a year employee is expensive? Look around your cube farm. How many employees you got in there? 50 employees? 100,000 times 50 is 5 million a year. Right? And every day that an employee comes in the office, you have to pay them. And so again, you think about this, a $20 an hour. So a $20 an hour employee is $40,000 a year, right? So an 8-hour day is $160, but again, you add on workman's comp, you add on the additional taxes, Social Security, that type of thing, you're getting up to like $220. So for a $20 an hour employee for an 8-hour shift, it comes out to somewhere between $200 to $220 per person. You have 4 $20 an hour employees, you are burning $1,000 per 8-hour shift. At least, and that's just for the employees, not for the facilities costs, not for the electricity, not for any of the other stuff. Again, that's where we talk about where turnkey can get pretty damn expensive. And so think about this, as a business owner, one of the things that you have to decide is, again, what direction your business is going to move in. Again, like you have to think about where you're going to be allocating budget. Budget allocation. And this is one of the reasons that you want to kiss your CEO's ass. One of the reasons you want to know your CEO's dog's name and their kids' names and how they're doing in lacrosse and the rest of it. And more importantly, not even the CEO, the secretary for the CEO or the admin assistant, whatever the hell they're called nowadays. You want to make sure the admin assistant for the CEO fucking adores you, right? Because when budget allocations come around, right, a lot of it's, we want to think it's about rational choice. We want to think about all this kind of fancy math. But one of the things, again, that Trump does bring to the light of day is the reality of how many business leaders do things. They give you this very complicated equation. How did you come up with this decision, boss? And they put out a very complicated equation because they kind of expect nobody to actually figure out what the equation means. And then somebody actually figures out what the equation means, and it's actually kind of stupid. It's kind of dumb, right? But that's the thing, is like they want to do something So then they scribble down this equation that makes it look like what they're doing is sane, and then that's the rationale for them doing what they wanted to do anyways. All right, so if they like you, here's the thing. The departments the CEO thinks are valuable will get the most budget allocation. The departments that annoy the ever-loving crap out of the executive will get a lesser allocation, right? So you gotta figure out, right? Are you gonna put more money into marketing? Are you gonna be putting more money into salespeople? Are you gonna be putting more money into warehouse? So again, if just-in-time inventory, if that has to go away, you actually have to stock up on inventory. Do you put more money into warehouses? Do you put more money into your technology solutions? Are you going to do return to work, return to office? Ergo, you're going to need to rent more facility space, deploy access points, build all that kind of internal technology infrastructure. Or are you going to push back to more work from home? Ergo, you're going to have less commercial office space, and therefore the technology solutions need to be more things like Zoom and that type of stuff, right? These are all, just decisions. There's no right or wrong answer. Again, remote work versus a return to office. There's no right answer. There's just the answer your CEO is gonna poop out at some point, right? It's always so cute. You see these people on Reddit, they start arguing. It's like, oh, you're putting way too much time and effort into this. Putting too much energy into this. Anyways, right? But there's always decision points. And again, that's where we talk about with warehouse space. So if you have basically free trade or a low-cost tariff trade, you have very small warehouses, and basically all your inventory comes in just in time. If you're worried about trade, again, with COVID or any of this tariffs or whatever, you literally build more, you rent more warehouse space so that you have more inventory, so that if there is a hiccup in the supply chain, you're able to pull from inventory and you're able to still service your customer. Right? That's the decision. Do you think supply chains will stay stable? Do you believe or not? Right? That's a bet. Right, where are you going to go with that? Again, work from home or return to office. How do you think this is going to play out? If you believe you have more control over your employees and that type of thing, you may pull for more return to office. If you're concerned about being able to compete in a larger market, be able to hire people at a less cost, that type of thing, you may do remote work. Again, no right or wrong answer. You just have to make a particular decision. And with that kind of stuff, again, there's a lot of decisions that go along with it. Again, are you going to invest in marketing or salespeople? And that's a technology solution. If you're doing salespeople, you deal with customer relationship management software, things like that, track what the salespeople are doing. And so salespeople are trying to directly sell to customers. Whereas marketing, again, is more advertising, billboards, radio ads, Google ads, that type of thing. Right? Again, there's different technology and there's different way. So in this particular market, which do you think is a more effective use of resources? And the issue is with Trump now, and the chaos and the absolute chaos, is it becomes very difficult for executives to feel comfortable with the bets that they're making. Right? I talked about this before with Louis Rossmann. So Louis Rossmann was still back in New York City, and he was going to rent that new space. He had a new space. He had a new beautiful space. He entirely redid the space, and then he left. Anyway, so he's going out to rent that space, and I was giving him crap because I do that. I do that with Louis. I was like, wow, Louis, you're brave. Right? We all know a Black Swan event is on the horizon, and you're going out and renting a whole new big office space. Because again, that's what made my ass pucker. Again, it had been over 10 years since we had a Black Swan event. So a Black Swan event was coming, right? Every 10 to 15 years, Black Swan comes, just like the cicadas do, right? And so that was the interesting, but he felt comfortable. He was like, I feel comfortable. He's willing to go mano a mano with a black swan event. And then COVID happened. But that was the thing. That's a comfort level. It's like, if you believe the world is getting better, or at least the world is going to stay the way it is, you are going to be more likely to want to invest in the future. And investing in the future is renting new space, building out new space, buying hardware, buying equipment, training people, all of that kind of stuff. If you believe there's a black swan event on the horizon, fuck that. You're going to stay exactly where you're at, right? And all this kind of stuff is just bets. It's bets. There's no right or wrong answer. There's just the bet. You are saying, I bet that tomorrow will be better, or I bet that tomorrow will be worse, or I bet that I'm just hungover and I don't want to deal with this crap right now. Right? It's a bet that you have to make. And so with the issue with the chaos that Trump is putting out there, is he's putting so many balls into the air. And those balls are flying in all kinds of different directions. And the question then becomes, as an executive, where the hell do you allocate resources in this type of insanity? Or do you allocate resources? Or is this the time to retrench? Right? 1 minute tariffs are going to go up. The next minute tariffs are staying the same. But here's the thing, again, as somebody has decision-making authority over a chihuahua, here's a question for you, right? So I bring up these wireless, or this wireless microphone system, right? So imagine I'm a business owner, and imagine my business is in these things. Here's a question. What is my actual tariff load on these little things? Do these come from China? Do these come from Europe? Is this a Chinese company that produces this in Mexico? Is this an American company that assembles this from Chinese parts? So you hear 125% tariff or 10% tariff. And again, seems like it should be pretty sane. Like, oh, okay, that's 100. That's gonna over double the cost, and that's not gonna over double the cost. But if you start thinking about, again, look around wherever you're at. Look around. Seriously, where is the crap actually built? I mean, we all assume everything's built in China, but it's not actually all built in China. Some things are built in China. Some things are assembled in Mexico. Some things are done in Europe. Again, if we look like an Arduino. Arduino. I don't know. I know these are designed in Italy. They're designed in Italy. Ergo, they're a 10% tariff. But it actually made in Italy? I don't know. I never cared before. I literally never gave a damn where the Arduino was actually. Hey, look, it's Italian engineering and Italian quality control. That's all I care about. I don't really actually care about where it's manufactured. Now, all of a sudden, right, if this is $40, if it's manufactured in Europe, it'll be $44, and if it's manufactured in Canada, Jesus, it'll be $90. The difference between whether this was manufactured in Italy or in China, $44 versus $90. And now think about this as an executive. Think about this as an executive that actually has to make decisions. Not somebody sitting there about the water cooler talking about what I would do or what he should do. Think about the person that's actually got to make the decision. And now all of a sudden they're looking at the inputs. They're looking at the inputs for the products and services that they offer their customers. And it's not like, oh, your inputs are getting, the price is doubling. Or your inputs, the price is going up by 10%. It's, oh, the inputs? Yeah, well, pick up each one of the items that are used in the product that you ship, flip it over and see what it's printed on its gonads. And then depending on what's printed on its gonads, you're also not really sure what that's actually going to mean. And then think about it. Think about the employers, right? The managers being put into that environment, and then knowing in 90 days, right? Even where the tariffs are only 10% now, they could get jacked up, right? You don't deal with China, you deal with Colombia. Hey, Colombia might get a 25% tariff. Who the hell knows? Think about that environment. And then at the exact same time, think about all the people that are getting laid off. It's really weird. Like, all the numbers are there, but people both do and don't talk about it. But again, with the federal government, hundreds of thousands of employees are getting laid off, right? The Pentagon alone, the civilian Pentagon employee workforce, they're trying to eliminate something like 50 to 60,000 employees. On top of USAID, on top of all of these other things. All of those people are going to get dumped onto the job market. How is that going to affect the sales for the products or services for your particular company? Again, we talk about this with them wanting to release the buildings. So the federal government has an absolute crap ton of buildings that they don't actually use, commercial real estate that they don't actually use. And to be clear, yes, they definitely should liquidate it. They definitely should liquidate it in a reasonable fashion. Do you think that's going to happen? Again, if you're thinking about renting real estate, should I rent 10,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet? And again, if you sign that contract, minimum's going to be 5 years. Again, once you get above like 10,000 square feet, contracts are 5 years, 10 years longer. Do you want to sign a 5-year contract for 100,000 square feet today when it's possible a metric crap ton of real estate might come on the market, so the value of the real estate that you're renting might actually plummet? And again, remember, we're in a capitalist world. So the more money you spend on something you don't necessarily need to spend money on versus what the competition is spending, right? If you're spending this much money on real estate, your competition is spending this much money on real estate, guess what? Your competition might decide to lower cost. Right? Look, we can sell our product for less because we're spending less money on things like real estate. So not only are you spending more money on real estate, you're now competing with a lower priced competitive product. How comfortable are you going to be with signing the dotted line on the real estate? Again, on top of that, again, all the illegal immigrants, right, being kicked out. Right, the Department of Homeland Security literally stated today that he wants to turn the deportation process, they want it to be the Amazon Prime of deportation. And now you might be sitting there. Again, I'm all for dealing with illegal immigration. I'm all for that. We have 11 million illegal immigrants in this country. 11 million, right? That's a couple percentage points of the actual population of the United States. Now again, depending on where you are, where your company is, and who the demographics your company, focuses on, what happens, not if 100 illegal immigrants leave your area, what happens if 10,000 illegal immigrants leave your area? And here's the thing, a lot of those illegal immigrants, they're paying rent. They are paying taxes. We don't like to think about it. They are doing jobs people don't like to think that need to get done. Again, janitor work and all kinds of other stuff going on, right? Landscaping. If you're a business owner and you're thinking about getting a 100,000 square foot office building, what are the chances are you're going to be able to find somebody to vacuum that damn place? Real question. Hey, you got a lawn to mow. Oh, you just bought this beautiful new campus. You're renting this beautiful new campus. Yeah, great. Make sure you mow that lawn, or the local government is going to fine your ass once the grass hits over 6 inches. Right? And is the illegal immigration going to continue, or is it going to stop? Right? Are the tariffs going to continue, or are they going to stop? And again, that's the thing, like with China, right? 125% tariffs. 125% tariff. But as I've said, a lot of people have said, that's almost like a trade embargo. Like once you over double the cost of goods coming out of a country, that's almost a trade embargo. And so one of the questions that really has to be asked by the executives is, do you believe this is going to continue? Do you believe that this can continue? So again, if you go and you build warehouse space and you do all this kind of stuff, do you trust that that investment will maintain value not even a year from now, a few weeks from now? Again, we talk about upskilling employees. Again, the crap that I gave Louis Rossmann. So back in the day, I was talking about computer repair being dead, and then everybody would give me crap because look, Louis Rossmann is making all this money doing computer repair, and I kept saying, "Whoa, buckos! What I did and what he does is an entirely different world." But think about the upskilling. Think about the upskilling that has to be done for Louis Rossmann's employees. Again, to be able to disassemble $3,000 computers very delicately, pull out the motherboard, hit it with a heat gun in just the right place, swap out the right chips without melting other things on the board. Right there's a lot to upskilling and bringing people on board. Right? I talk about that with tech companies, right? It takes 6 months to a year to fully onboard an employee. And again, you might not think about it with things like warehouse workers and all that, but it takes a while to fully onboard even a warehouse worker, maybe a month. And then if you're spinning up a facility, it's probably about a year, right? So when you're bringing up like a warehouse facility, you start bringing in the new employees. For that thing to fully function and do what it's supposed to do, it really takes about a year before it's up to speed. As a business leader, how comfortable are you investing in that right now? And then again, you think about the blowback. You think about the blowback around the world. Again, how many American products does the rest of the world want to buy? China is putting an 85% tariff on our products. What happens when our farm products are not purchased by China? Our goods are not purchased by China. And then the companies that sell those particular products and services, they then have to look at downsizing. And so one of the things to be thinking about, right? If you're sitting there as a business leader, again, one decision is to grow, to expand. And that's where most of us get hired. Most of us get hired, and where our real money as technology professionals come is by that expansion. Right? New crap has the best profit margin. So that's one way. It's like, I don't know if we should expand. And so the next idea is, okay, maybe we stay where we're at, right? So we already have the facility, we already have all of this. And again, making money off of maintaining crap, there's not a lot of money there. Again, think about it. Running network cable throughout a building, a commercial building, putting in Cisco equipment, initially configuring that, right? That's lots of money. Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how large your project is. Well, here's the thing. Once the cable's been run, once the Cisco equipment has been installed and configured, how much money does it cost to maintain that every month? Basically pennies. Realistically, you could probably walk away from that whole setup and come back in 10 years and it would still be fine, right? Right, so there's not as much money in maintenance and just simple upkeep. But then the other issue to be thinking about for a lot of these businesses and these decision makers is, what if it's time to retrench? Again, a lot of businesses have overinvested in this time period. A lot of businesses, the headcount has expanded. A lot of the businesses have gotten to where they need to go. It's interesting. I was talking to a buddy of mine last night, and he was trying to figure out what to do with his career. And he's at a department that's good, and he's thinking about maybe moving over to something else. And one of the things he was talking about is like, well, the thing that I feel comfortable about with our department is that we're really necessary for the company. And we've been doing, this work for the past 4 years. And one of the things I warned him, though, is it was like, okay, well, you've had a team dedicated to this set of tasks for 4 years at this point. What's the percentage possibility that most of that work is now done? Right? So 4 years ago, it was incredibly important for this team to be doing these tasks. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. But if your team has been working on this set of tasks for 4 years, I mean, I don't know. It's your company, it's your department, but I would think you've moved along the process pretty well after 4 years. So one of the questions to ask yourself is, after 4 years, is it time to start cutting headcount in that team simply naturally? And so if you have inertia, again, like inertia runs the world, right? So you had a team of 10 people 4 years ago because you needed it. And you have a team of 10 people 3 years ago because it was really nice to have 10 people. And you had a team of 10 people, 2 years ago because, wow, nobody's getting overworked. You have a really good, comfortable work environment. And then, 1 year, and then you're looking at it now, and it's like, well, you have 10 people on your team because you've always had 10 people on your team. Right? Is that the time that it looks good to the executives to look at your team and go, hey, remember when all the employees were working their asses off and now all the employees are pretty relaxed? Maybe if we fire half of your team, you'll be back to the individual workload that you had 4 years ago. Maybe it's time for the tech people in this company to get serious again. Right? Do we need all of this office space? Hey, we expanded all this office space, blase, blase, blase. Maybe it's time to start cutting back on that. And that's the thing to consider right now, is the whole question of what is the answer to that? And what I notice in the business world, generally, when people don't feel comfortable coming up with an answer, is essentially they come up with no answer. And then things start grinding into abject stupidity, right? Because they don't want to promote people and they don't want to grow because they're not comfortable about where the economy will be. And so then people start leaving, right? So those people go, but then they get a little worried that the company is small and they're losing people. So then they hire people, but they don't really hire people at the exact level and pay grade that need to get hired. So then you start hiring worse people and you just start getting a weird moosh. You get a weird moosh of what goes on in the business. And so that's why it's going to be important for tech professionals, is because in this insanity, how do business leaders actually make decisions? And will they make decisions? And so the important thing for you to be thinking about is, again, as a decision maker, technology decision maker, is you, my friends, need to start actually doing your jobs. What does that mean? I talked about this, right? I talk about understanding your maintenance agreements. I talk about understanding the licenses you're signing. Talk about understanding terms of service and all of that type of thing. One of the things you're going to need to start doing is understanding where your products come from and things like what the tariff burden on those products is going to be. Because what I'll tell you is, when you walk into a CEO's environment, the more confident you are when you walk into that environment, and more information that you can rattle off that makes sense, the easier things are going to be. Hey boss, this is what's going on with the server rooms and everything else. Look, we're going to need to get another 10 switches. I understand right now, with everything going on through the economy, that's a hard ask for these switches, but you've got to understand, for the new things that were already coming down the pike, we need these switches to actually be able to connect all the devices and everything that have already been planned on. Here's the thing. Again, I know money's important. I was looking at the Cisco equipment. I was looking at this other equipment over here. And one of the things I realized is we don't need the top of the line stuff. We do need industrial class networking equipment to do what we're doing, but we don't need Cisco. We don't need some of these other things. I found this good vendor. They don't produce their networking equipment in China. Will get hit by 125% tariffs. They produce their equipment in Poland, which is only going to get hit by a 10% tariff. So here's the thing, boss. We need this equipment. I'm not going to ask you to spend this insane amount for the Cisco equipment, but I do need you to give me the allocation for this Polish equipment. Right? That's the kind of thing you're going to need to start talking to your boss about. Again, look, we have all of these laptops. We have these normal refresh cycles. You go in and you talk with the boss. Look, boss, right? Normally, we have a 3-year refresh cycle on our laptops. Here's the thing. With all these tariffs and everything coming down the pike, if we do the normal 3-year refresh cycle, our hardware cost is going to go from $100,000 per year to $200,000 per year, basically with these tariffs going into effect. Here's the thing, boss. I'm pretty sure that I'd feel comfortable pushing that refresh cycle from 3 years. I do think we can push it out to 5 years. The issue is with doing a 3-year refresh cycle, basically it's like replacing a car before there's any issues. We don't get a lot of hardware problems right now, simply because we replace the computers before there are hardware problems. If we push out the refresh cycle until 5 years, we are going to start to have more hardware failures. So what I need you to give me the allocation for is we're going to push this refresh cycle out for 5 years, but to do that, I need a check today to buy 30 of these laptops so that we can have them in storage, so that when systems fail, as we know they will fail, they are already there, right? That's kind of like the carrot and the stick that you do the CEO. Again, there's this idea that CEOs control everything. Oh, no, they don't. Oh, no, they don't. They sign the checks. They don't write the checks, right? And so that's one of the things that you need to think about as a decision maker, as a technology IT decision maker, is how can you start discussing with the vested interest within your organization to start trying to plan and mitigate just the insanity of this mess. And remember that $100,000 that you save the company is $100,000 they can keep to pay your salary. Again, it's always funny, especially in the startup world. You just see these engineers just throwing the money around. Startups are screwed when the engineers are throwing money around. Because it's like, yeah, so that money can either be thrown around on crap, or it can be used to pay your salary. I mean, if you don't think the company's money is worth anything, maybe you don't need your paycheck and company money. So anyways, just something to think about, something to ponder in this modern insanity that we're dealing with. I don't know. What's the answer? I don't know. I don't know. Again, this isn't even talking about Trump anymore. I mean, it's Trump-ish, like Trump, because of Trump, we are now dealing with these issues. But again, this isn't, like, I miss politics. Politics, the old-fashioned politics. Like, is global trade, globalization, global trade good, or should things be within the country? Should we have private enterprise, or should we nationalize things? Like, remember those, like those topics? Hey, does it make sense that if an American has a heart attack, there's a good chance that they're going to go bankrupt? I think that's a problem we should solve. Can we solve that problem, please? Why is that problem always the least important problem? Anyways. Remember, that was the politics. But this is the world that we've got. And so the question is how do you position yourself in that world? And again, that's what I talked about with yesterday. Again, think about it with things like real estate. Do you rent entire houses to people? Or do you put 20 beds in one house and you rent bunks to people? Either way, it's a real estate business. And what you might find out is renting bunks in a house ends up making you more profit than renting entire houses. Sad, but also very true. So anyways, that's it. That's what I got to say for today. So how did this work out? So we got the Rode microphone. I'm thinking I like the Rode microphone. We got the ring light. I'm not sure how I feel about the ring light yet. But now we're using the AX700. So maybe the AX700 with the ring light. Maybe that gives us something special. I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. And again, like I say, I do these one-on-one meetings with folks on students every Monday between 1 to 5. And we are having Martin Lehner as our first guest next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Again, you can go to silicondojo.com in order to sign up to be part of that. And yeah, with that, I'm going to go have a cry. I remember the Great Recession. The Great Recession, oh, it's just not fun. Great Recession sucked. My God, the Great Recession. Like, there was just something, so I was in this room, like I said, I was in this room. It was just like one of those Kodak moments, one of those lived experiences. Right, it's like money people in this room. Talking about the economy. And it was just so brutal. Like, he was such an ass. He was a nice ass. He was such an ass. But just having this very, very well-off person who, you know, basically their job is doing money things. And literally, basically, the comment then was for the Great Recession. His literally comment was, the recession is not going to stop until the poor people get hungry enough to go back to work. I'm like, Jesus Christ. To be clear, true. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't lying. Oh, those are some fucking brutal conversations. That's just like, oh, fuck. We are in a society. We live in a society. And that's the thing to realize, like with where we're at now. Like, if we do go into recession, I mean, we have to go from a point where people are feeling like they're here to going all the way down and to being so just effed that they'll take any job that they can get to pull themselves up. And I'm just going to put it out there. I don't think it's going to be manufacturing jobs. I mean, maybe I don't understand what it takes to build a factory. I just don't think that many factories are going to get built in like 4 years. Anyways, who knows? See you later.